A couple of weeks ago I made a video about setting up MAME on my laptop and getting the itch to play a lot of arcade games. Now I decided that I quite fancy getting a real cabinet, and so in this video I'm going to talk about what I ended up doing. Obviously I bought one. Is it the right thing to do? I really fancy getting that full coin dropping experience, standing up next to my cabinet, playing with the proper controls, the joystick and the buttons. So I went all the way and got myself a cabinet. Now before I did, there were kind of three options that were open to me. First one was buying a fully built off-the-shelf cabinet, probably a MAME cabinet that had an LCD, had all the games already pre-set up on it, but this was the most expensive option for me. Second option, I could have just bought a cabinet kit, MDF kit that I would have put together myself, put in an LCD, put in a desktop or something that powered it, and then that would be my main arcade machine, and that would probably have been about similar sort of price, quite expensive actually. Now my third option was to buy a real arcade machine with a CRT in there, like an older cabinet, a real cabinet, one with a Jamma harness inside, and somehow convert that to play additional games. Well, I actually went with option 3 because a cabinet came up for sale relatively nearby to where I live and for a price that I was willing to pay. It needed a bit of work, and it still needs a bit of work, so hopefully I made the right decision out of the three. My cabinet is probably a late 80s, maybe an early 90s cabinet, so yeah, it definitely needs a bit of work. Anyway, stick around for this video. I'll go into a little bit more about the cabinet, I'll show it off to you, and then you can tell me in the comments if I'm crazy or not. It came from a local bar in Sydney, which is themed around an arcade. So the owner is actually a guy from the UK as well. I was talking to him, his name's Ben, he's a really quality guy. He loves collecting arcade machines, and he obviously wanted to make a business out of it, so he's got his bar. And he's got heaps of arcade machines in there. So he's got Time Crisis, he's got Point Blank, he's got Simpsons, he's got a lot of really nice, proper dedicated machines. Plus he's got some low boys where he's playing some other kind of more classic games in there. But it's a really cool bar. And he had an old machine that was kind of surplus to his requirements. It was upstairs in his storage area. I think it just didn't really fit in with his other machines. It was running Cabal, so it had I think he bought it out west of Sydney from a guy, and then just didn't really have space for it. There's definitely some issues with it, but he was selling it for a pretty cheap price. The price of getting that plus transporting it home would be cheaper than a kit. And the benefits to me is that it comes with a CRT and it's got the Jamma harness inside, so that's kind of cool. It wasn't selling with the game board, it wasn't coming with Cabal, but that's okay, so that's what also made the cabinet a little bit cheaper. The cabinet was pretty clean, pretty good. Obviously he knows his arcade stuff, he services his cabinets as well, so he said that the chassis for the monitor on this one had been recently serviced, so he's pretty happy with it. All seemed to be worked. We had a quick 2-player game of Cabal, seemed to work fine, so I came back a few days later with hired a man in a ute to come pick it up and drive it home. Now it was on the second floor of his bar in his storage area, and I helped carry it down. I was at the top of the arcade machine and he was at the bottom of it, and these things are seriously heavy. It's got CRT inside, plus it's like made out of, I don't know, solid plywood or whatever, so it was so heavy. I definitely strained my back, so it took me about a week to get over having a sore back. So if you're thinking about getting an arcade machine, just be careful of the weight of these things. But anyway, so I got it home, got it moved into my garage, it's in there. I didn't want to bring it into the house because it's actually bigger than I was expecting. It's about 170 centimeters tall with about 70 centimeters wide and 70 centimeters deep. So it's pretty bulky. So it's in my garage at the moment, but it didn't have a game, so I really had some options open to myself. I could either go on eBay and try and find a decent game, a decent PCB, printed circuit board, but they're not that cheap at the moment. Probably the cheapest I could find was about 100, 120 Australian dollars. And the thing is, that would be just a single game, right? And then I'm going down the route of becoming a PCB collector, which would be extremely expensive if I started to do that. Now, the second option is I could get a desktop PC and set up what they call a groovy MAME setup. So that's where you have your desktop PC and you connect it through using a special converter that goes into the CRT, and then you're playing MAME through on that. Another option is I could have gone online and got one of these Pandora's box type PCBs, which maybe have like 500, 600, 700 games all included. However, I've heard that the emulation on those isn't the greatest, so even though that probably would have been about 100, 150 bucks for one of those, I decided against it. Now, the fourth option, and the one that I actually went with, was to get one of these Raspberry Pi to Jamma converters. So you can then just run emulation software on your Raspberry Pi, which then gets converted into the Jamma signals, which then just makes it plug and play straight into the cabinet. So that's what I went for. And I went with one called the Raspberry to Jamma, which is also linked with this ArPiCade software, which is written by a guy in Melbourne called Dylan, but goes on his handle on the internet as Deezer. Really top bloke, answered all my questions that I had before I decided to make the purchase, kind of walked me through, very easy, got it delivered like a couple of days after ordering it. I got it with the SD card, so he pre-populated the SD card with his software, put on his ROMs. There's heaps of ROMs on there already, so literally just had to connect my Raspberry Pi, plug it into the Jamma connector, turn it on, and that was it. Like, I've got now a working arcade machine with heaps of classic games. It's so much fun to play. Works with the coin mech. I can put like 20 cent or $1 coins into the arcade machine and it picks it up as credit. Or it's running off of MAME and some other emulators in there, so you can also use some button configurations to add credit as well. But it's awesome. It is so much fun. Now, this cabinet, it does need quite a bit of superficial kind of upgrades, I guess. Like the marquee obviously is terrible. I need to figure out how to get in there and swap that around. The bezel is like a generic bezel which just has like images of Donkey Kong and 1942 and other things. I'll have to see if I can replace that, maybe make that a bit cooler. The control panel, the lock is broken, so really I should replace the lock, and also the control panel could do with a bit of painting. It's got a bit of wear on there. And the cabinet is a basic black cabinet. I guess I could put some cool kind of vinyls or something on the sides. I don't know, we'll wait and see. But overall, to be honest, I've got a working arcade machine, and most nights when my kids are gone to bed, I kind of sneak off to the garage, turn it on, and bust out a few games for about an hour or so. So many to choose from that I tend to just have a look through and play for quite a while. I'm enjoying it. It's so cool. I do need to get a little bar stool though, because actually standing up and playing, it takes hurts your back after a while, right? Especially after like moving it down the stairs like a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, it's so cool. Do I think I made a mistake in buying an arcade? No, I don't think so. Do I think I make a mistake buying one of these older ones, like with a CRT? No, not at all. I love that scanline look. The monitor does have a little burn-in on the left and some colour stuff on the right, but overall it still looks really cool. I'm really enjoying it. I think it is one of the coolest things that I've set up and got working in the last couple of months. Anyway, if you guys have any questions, put them in the comments. Like if you guys got arcades, I don't know if this is going to turn into something else where I'm going to start collecting more arcade machines. Probably not, because I don't have enough space. But yeah, that's probably what I've been working on the last couple of weeks, alongside a few other things as well. Anyway, hope you thought this was interesting. Tell me how you go. I'd love to hear from you, and thanks for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next video, hopefully. Catch you later. Bye.